another story that broke this week, or the latest installment of that story is with Carey Price. He was in the League and Player Association program, the assistance program, I should say. He released a statement earlier this week outlining the fact that he went in because of substance use. I believe he spoke to his teammates before he dropped that statement as well. And now it looks as if he's trying to just get his conditioning back so he can return eventually to the ice. I'm not going to waste time and ask when you think he'll be back, because I think it's a waste of time to even speculate that, because he'll be ready when he's ready. But what were your thoughts on seeing Carey Price take to the internet to reveal why he went into the program and just what he's been through over these last few months?
Well, incredibly brave, incredibly strong of him. I think we should really say he didn't owe us anything. Like, if he didn't ever want to address this head on, if he didn't want to get specific, if you just want to say, look, I was in a bad place and I had to get that looked after, I mean, I think that would have been totally fine as an explanation. I wouldn't have expected more from him than that. And so for him to essentially get ahead of it and release this statement, it sounds like it was all done by him. It wasn't a case where the Canadiens put him up to it or there was a long back and forth. I think it was something he felt quite strongly that he wanted to do. I tip my hat to him. I think that again, it's one more brick in a wall, like in a good way, like a wall that's taking us to a better place as a sport, because it's definitely going to be easier, when the next player has to deal with something like this. I mean, Carey Price is a superstar in one of hockey's most covered markets. He's Team Canada's goaltender. He's been an NHL star for a long, long time. And so that he's not hiding, I think, is amazing. I think it's important to note too, like, there's this conditioning aspect of this. Like, his knee wasn't even healthy when he left, enough to be cleared to be a full member of practice. His recovery is ongoing too. Like, he was spent 30 days in a treatment facility, but I think he should be given all the space and time he needs to be sure that he's ready to jump back into the grinds of the season, because obviously, as he mentioned in his statement, like, he got to a pretty dark place that he pushed himself to a spot that was difficult to get out of. So, I commend him for it. I'm actually blown away. Like, when you step back, Julian, like, this has been such a crazy time in our sport, but like, how much people have discussed about these type of issues, like Jonathan Drouin. I know Robin Lehner was in there early. I just think that there's a real openness happening, and I can't help but be encouraged by it. I'm sorry to hear that Carey Price got to that spot. I'm sure it's been really difficult on him and his family, but I think there's a lot of power that can be leveraged out of him, being willing to share his story, to admit, put his hand up and say, look, looks like I got my life together. I've been one of the best goalies in the NHL for 15 years, but look, I still have struggles too, like everyone else.
Absolutely. And there's no shame in admitting that you're not okay. And there's no shame in admitting that you need help. I think that's the biggest takeaway from both Jonathan Drouin and Carey Price taking their time away from the Montreal Canadiens, is that even players who are as highly regarded as those two, or as highly paid as those two, they go through a lot of issues that could easily happen to people like yourself and me. Superstars and athletes are not these, we like to project them as invincible people who are able to ward off any distraction or any problem that comes their way, and are able to just be successful at what they do because of the level of focus. But even they could fall through the pitfalls of life and need that time to basically be helped back up. So I think the biggest takeaway is that, not everyone is invincible, and nobody is above help. And Carey Price kind of showed that with what he's gone through and the statement that he put out on social media the other day.
Yeah, there's so much pressure in these jobs, right? It's so public facing. Mm-hmm. It's got to feel like you're on the treadmill too. Like, once you get into a season, the games are basically every other day. You're traveling around, you're managing your body. I mean, it's not hard to imagine how you could find yourself in a tough spot. Look, I think the other thing I take away, it's sort of when we talk about the culture issues too, Julian, like, this isn't unique to hockey or to pro sports. I mean, the person who delivers your mail might be going through what Carey Price is for some of the same types of reasons. Like, even though there's not an obvious link to what their stresses are. I mean, I think that kind of maybe demystifying some of, so much of what professional athletics is, and I play a huge part of this in my job, right? For my whole adult life is sort of building these guys up. It's, marveling at their exploits, celebrating the things they do amazing that you and I can't ever imagine doing on ice skates in a game, played at that speed, all those things. But, I think that there's value too in being really real about the fact that there really isn't that much difference between Carey and you, Carey and me. There's really not that much difference between all of us anywhere in the world. Anyone who's traveled a lot, you start to understand that is that we got way more in common than we do that separates us. And it's only that we focus sometimes on those separators. And maybe part of what will come out of this is we'll just talk about the players a little differently, talk about their experiences differently, talk about the teams differently. That might be helpful too.